Well, 4 new coaches in the Big Ten this season. I think we've gotten far enough along in the season now that we can kind of assess where things are going, take stock at this spot. And I will start with you, Andy. When you look at all of the new guys, what stands out to you?
Luke Fickell. His team could have quit before the Illinois game. They're sitting there at 3-3. Everything could have been over. I mean, look at what they've been through. They've been through the cloud of the NCAA investigation. Their best receiver suspended for 10 games. Their best running back suspended for 6 games. They had to change quarterbacks because of all this and put in basically they're going with a true freshman quarterback. Everything could have gone wrong. They're still in the division race. And if they are still in the division race going into the Michigan game, you know what? I'd seriously consider keeping Luke Fickell on full time, because the guy can obviously coach. He can obviously motivate. He can keep the team together. He recruited a lot of these guys. I mean, he was kind of their closer in recruiting. So if you're going to look at a coach, you know, a big name, look close to home.
Speaking of that Ohio State-Michigan game, I mean, I think Brady Hoke has not only been the best newcomer, I think this guy could be coach of the year. I mean, you talk about an instant culture change. You know, Rich Rod before him really didn't care about Michigan traditions. Now you've got a guy in Brady Hoke, Ohio native, grew up as a Michigan fan, refuses to wear red, as I learned in my call, step into my office, check your local listings. And then tangibly, you know, he has protected Denard very well by sprinkling in Devin Gardner, protected him from injuries, and the defense is totally redone because he was smart enough to hire Greg Madison, another Michigan man.
Well, I love the fact you guys are pointing out sort of the obvious guys. I mean, Luke Fickell, I think he's a solid coach. He's helped to pull his guys out of the flames. I think Brady Hoke's an extraordinary coach. But these guys are guys that have cupboards that are full. I mean, when they're the chef making the meal, they have cupboards that are full. Let's find somebody who's working with a cupboard that's depleted. I'm going to mention Gerry Kill, because I think when you look at what he's done at Minnesota, able to get his players to rally up and to be bigger than what they are. And to me, guys, when you take a coach, you know, a great coach can get a player and a team to see who they can become instead of who they are. And that's what Gerry Kill has done, which is why he's been able to successfully turn around programs, which is why he will turn around the Minnesota program as well.
Seymour, I'll see your Kill and raise you a Wilson. You know, Gerry Kill, I think one of the great advantages he had is he has been through the ranks before. You look at Kevin Wilson, who's a first-time head coach, and to me, style has a lot to do with the head coach. You know, the last 4 head coaches at Indiana were fired by athletic directors that didn't hire them. Fred Glass knew what he was getting with Kevin Wilson, a very aggressive coach. He just dismissed DeMarlo Belcher. He played 7 freshmen and redshirt freshmen against Northwestern last week on defense. He's taken a very aggressive approach, which in my opinion is exactly what they need. But when times get tough, he's going to need an athletic director, which he has, who's going to be able to support that approach, because the approaches are different. And the one that is the hardest to put up with when you're losing is an aggressive approach. But I say to you, Kevin Wilson's on the right track, and Fred Glass, the athletic director, will support him.
Well, I think it's coaches that come in and have to change a culture, because people don't realize that losing is contagious just like winning is. So when you take Coach Wilson, you take Gerry Kill, they realize that they got to come in, roll their sleeves up, maybe weed out some of the guys in the locker room, but ultimately to bring back a winning culture, to bring back a conviction and a belief, and that's what I'd love to see about
I would think
guys.
the tough challenge in situations like that is you don't want to totally sell out the players who've been there, the guys who are working hard every week. You want to play the young guys. I mean, how do you balance that?
Well, I think it's style. I mean, Rever and I, we were with Mark D'Antonio 5 years ago, and he made the point that they did not lose a player. Remember, we were sitting in the cafeteria with him.
Absolutely.
And to me, that was astonishing that he had not lost any players from the previous staff. But that's unusual, but that was Mark's style. My style, Kevin Wilson's style, I think it's the opposite end of the spectrum. So that's when you say, where do you draw the line? You draw the line, you do it the way you want to do it. And there is no line to draw. You make the line.
Because Brian Kelly at Notre Dame is dealing with that now. I mean, he had a mini mutiny on his hands because he's drawn that line between the guys I recruited are the tougher guys, the guys who were here are not.
But you know what I found interesting, though, and I called the Minnesota-Iowa game last week, and I asked Coach Kill before the game, I said, how do you get guys to buy into your vision when you don't have wins to substantiate your point? Right. And he said you stay consistent with the message. And I think that's huge, too. He always stays true to who he is, and I think that's helped him in coaching.
And then it doesn't take a whole lot for them to start buying into that message. It's that one win. It's being able to hoist that trophy to say, hey, maybe this guy is onto something. Well, it's an interesting question. It's a slightly different one than we are posting right now on the BTN's Facebook page, but largely along the same lines. They want to know who is your Big Ten Rookie Coach of the Year. So log on, cast your vote at facebook.com/BTN.